to have you with us here on a busy Tuesday afternoon on a huge day. Eddie Erickson, Colin Schmelling, yours truly, Christopher Russo on SiriusXM's 82. 888 Mad Dog 6 is your two-way sports talk telephone number. Just joining us today, getting in a car. We've spent a good part of the afternoon, obviously all football. Peter at 4, but most on college there at the top of the hour at 3. And the East with obviously the game last night that had that incredible finish where Alabama in overtime beat Georgia 26-23. After being down 13-0 at the half, being down 20-7 in the third quarter, and then, of course, being down 20-10 in the fourth quarter, they figured out a way to get the game tied late, had a chance to win the game late with the last-second field goal. The kid missed it left. Thank God. He never would have lived with himself if if they had lost that game. Georgia kicked the field goal first drive of the overtime. Blankenship kicked a 51-yarder, and then, of course, the bomb 41-yard touchdown pass by Tao, whatever his name is, the lefty from Hawaii, who brought in at halftime, third quarter, based on the ineptitude of Jalen Hurts, who did not play well in this game, and obviously made enough plays, made the great pass play there in the end after the sack, as Alabama wins championship number 5 for I think it's 5 in 9 years, right? For Sabin, he won the one with LSU. So Sabin is going to go down as one of the all-time greats. We all know that. You think about the history of college football, and Sabin's going to be right there with the Bear Bryants, the Parsigans. I know you say why I put in Parsigan there. Parsigan's a great coach from Notre Dame. You name the all-time great coaches in college: Newt Rockne, Frank Leahy. Go ahead. I don't care John McKay, whoever you want to name. Doesn't make a difference to me. He's in that category. Urban Meyer, he's better than Urban Meyer. He's in that category as one of the all-time great coaches that America's ever produced. That includes Belichick, Lombardi, Wooden, Krzyzewski, Scotty Bowman. You name it, he's on that list. He's that good. I like the way he goes about his business. I always have. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's only about winning. He's not that wrapped up in, chasing records. He made that clear last night after the game when he said, I could care less about the records, catching Bryant. I'm more worried about just winning the game for these kids, and he obviously did that. I'm sure he's hard to work for. Those assistants bounce around left and right. I'm sure they don't love him. Based on what you read with books on Alabama football, you definitely get the idea that he works them hard, and maybe there's no love lost. Who knows? I can't answer that. All I know is he's unbelievably successful. I don't want to go overboard with the praise that he's been getting around the world today as far as the quarterback switch at the half. For what it's worth, me, who took Alabama last night, thought he had to do something at the quarterback spot. Hurts was terrible. He had not been good really the second half of the year. He was terrible against Auburn. He wasn't much better against Clemson. They did win the game, but it was because of their dominant defense stopping Kelly Bryant. Hurts was 3 for 8 for 20 yards in the first half. Really played a horrendous game. Missed a wide open receiver in the right corner of the end zone in their first drive. Had the one running play, big deal. He had to make a change. They were not winning that game the way it was going to stay. And all Sabin is interested in is winning that game that day. That's all he cares about. He's not that wrapped up in, building things down the road. He's like Belichick. They want to win the game that is in front of them. They don't worry about future, past, history. They're not interested. The games, Belichick right now is not thinking about, playing Pittsburgh again. Belichick's not thinking about winning in back-to-back Super Bowls. All he cares about right now is Jake Mariota in Tennessee. That is all he's interested in. And all Sabin's interested in last night is and of course the Georgia football team and Kirby Smart and everything else. That's all he cares about. That's all he's interested in, and that's why he's great. He's able to focus on the task ahead of him, and that's all he cares about. And that's why. And then he adds up all the trophies at the end of the day. And he did a superb job of keeping his team in the game last night. I mean, they were very lucky. I thought it was a gift wrap championship handed to Alabama, based on Georgia getting a little conservative. They only threw the ball 2 or 3 times after they had the lead at 20-7. They didn't take any chances. They played the clock instead of playing the opponent. They tried to race to the finish line instead of just getting there, playing it play by play. They got a little too hasty by trying to rush to the end, and that gets them in trouble. And obviously they got no help by the officials. It's been a big theme today. The officials in this game did an horrendous job. The Big Ten crew, I mean, there was 5 or 6 play calls, at least in the second half. Somehow, some way, they all went against Georgia. Georgia, and if any one of the 4 to 5 went for Georgia instead of against Georgia, they would have won the championship. That's how bad the officiating was. Whether it's a late hit on Fromm that somehow was not called, whether it was a face mask on a kickoff return, which was obvious, whether it was Alabama leaving, it was 4th and 4, by the way, at 20-13, whether it was Alabama moving before their touchdown to tie the game with 4 minutes to go, the block punt, the pass interference penalty, you name it. If any of those calls were not called and just or were called properly, not called in reference to the scenario with the pass interference. But if if any of those plays were officiated properly, Georgia would have won the championship. That's how significant, to me, those plays were. I mean, especially the late hit on Fromm. I mean, that was an obvious one. I mean, the play was over and he hit his head against the turf. How that doesn't get 15 yards, I have no idea. That right in front of the side judge, he didn't call that. That would have been first down at the Alabama 23-yard line, 20-10, last play of the third quarter. You want to play the game from there and see who wins? So from that standpoint, I thought Georgia. Now listen, they made some mistakes, as we mentioned, but they had no help, but they made some mistakes. Play the game a little differently, they probably would have ended up winning. So, the rating wasn't as good as you thought. The Rose Bowl did better. The Rose Bowl's got a perfect television time. January 1st, 5 o'clock, San Gabriel Mountains, every year at the same time. I mean, that's as good a time as you can possibly get. And if they get in the loop for the championship, don't forget it rotates with the big bowls. If their year happens to be a championship Final Four setting as it was this year, and it's frozen in America around America that day as it was, they're going to do great, and they very well did. Now, that game did a 17-4, about 26, 27 million people. This game last night did a 16-7, probably about 24, 25 million people. Not as great as it should have been. I don't think it really has anything to do with the Georgia-Alabama SEC final. I think it might have a little something to do with the length of the game in the East Coast. Might have a little something to do with the game was 13-0 at the half. Might have a little something to do with the fact that the halftime never ends. I don't know. But I'm surprised the game didn't do better, to be honest with you. A game that is right there at the end, at midnight with, an absolute thrilling finish. I'm surprised people didn't run to it. But again, it's a weeknight. They have to fix the college football system as far as the television schedule is concerned. The season should end on January 1st. It should not end a week or so after. Next year, I think the season ends January 13th. So it's really pushed back. I think it's a problem. I think it's very, very difficult to go from the NBA or the NFL playoffs, as we had this weekend with the 4 games, and then back into a college mode 24 hours later. I think it's very, very hard to do that. I have trouble doing it as a sports fan. To me, the college football season should end on January 1st. I know that it's tricky with 40 bowls, how to do that, and I understand the Rose Bowl's got that time slot, but that to me is, that would cure a lot of the issues. I mean, if you think it's no big deal and the rating is so good, well, the Jacksonville-Buffalo game with, those 2 quarterbacks, Bortles and Tyrod Taylor did a better number than the Georgia-Alabama game did. Think about that. The game, now listen, everybody was frozen Sunday, so you had to watch something, but that game did a better rating than the game last night. That was a 10-3 snore fest with punts, with those crap quarterbacks, did a better rating at CBS, I get it, but it did a better rating than the ESPN game last night. That would concern me if I'm running college football. My championship game on a Monday night on ESPN, prime time, should be better, should do better rating-wise than the Bills-Jaguars. That's just all there is to it. And I would want to figure out how to make sure that happens. Now, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, play it on January 1st. Anyway, regardless, Sabin wins his championship. Again, what else is new? He's there every single year. I don't get the idea that he's slowing down. I think Sabin's still got plenty of football left in him. I think he'll be at Alabama another 4 or 5 years easy. He looks young. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Pete Carroll. He's got a little of the Pete Carroll in him where, he doesn't look 66. He's exuberant. He's enthusiastic. He acts a lot younger than his age, and I think that bodes well. Carroll kind of is 65 in the NFL. I think Sabin's 66. Remind me a little bit of each other. We continue here on Mad Dog Unleashed with your calls. We'll get right to you. 12 after the hour here on our program. Don't go away.